how do you help companies that are like, whether they're shoring up their weaknesses or reinforcing successes or whatever they're doing to adapt? How do you help them market at a time like this?
Mm-hmm. So first, we have two forms that we have everyone fill out. One is a budget marketing form, and one is the SLA. And the budget marketing form is actually not about money at all. It's actually to identify where is the company suffering in marketing, and what are you doing well, and what is most important to you at the time. And so how do we market? We look at what is most important to that CEO,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some of the things that they come to us for initially, just because they think, oh, marketing, so that means I need to talk about SEO or social media. In reality, that may not be the real thing they really want. And so those two forms that I mentioned actually help us to identify what's top of the mind for you right now. Let's start with that, and then we'll build out everything else and put everything on a timeline and have all these deliverables associated with a date. And we can, that way, that helps them have peace of mind. But we want to first target their major pain points.
So how has what you've done changed with regard to COVID? Because it seems to me that COVID creates a need for businesses to adapt, right?
Yeah.
So just...
Yeah, test, learn, and adapt. And so that's basically what we did. I realized, let me just say, before COVID, basically all of my income was coming from being in person. Doing in-person marketing. And we did video, we did experiential marketing, we did photography, and all of those came to a screeching halt. So I had digital services, but I didn't go into a hard launch on that with my company yet, because I was still waiting to build my team. So when COVID happened, we basically had to take all the in-person stuff that was making the money and throw it out the window indefinitely, and then focus only on launching the digital aspect of our company. And we went through a rebranding, and just had to roll with it and learn as we go.
So you had to change the business model, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting, because although I think you had already started working with interns before COVID hit, right? You'd already kind of laid some groundwork with the universities.
Yeah, I was already planning to. And so it just happened that when COVID hit, it just made the types of interns that I was going to look for different, because I was about to recruit a lot of videography interns, photography focused, film focused interns. And then it turned to all technical.
Interesting.
And so, and it turned technical. And then it was just like, okay, this is going to happen. And I don't know everything yet. And it happened anyway. And I just learned as I went, but I learned pretty quickly.
Well, that's kind of the secret I've learned, is none of us know everything. So we got to keep learning.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about building skills and continuing to learn and grow, right?
I really agree with that. I actually thought the other day, I had a thought that every business should be in a perpetual startup phase. So never get out of that phase of evolving, keep evolving. All the tech companies are like that. They never stop changing things up. I mean, for instance, I'm working with Facebook right now. And one of the things that they do all the time is change things all the time.
Right.
Sometimes, like some of our bosses, they say, I could be in the middle of completing a document and they say, scrap it, let's do something else. And that's just how fast paced it is. And they still operate like a startup, because they're always trying to implement new things. So that's the way that we are.
Um, Hey, so Labeaud, on your website, it says we're aligning your company goals with measurable strategies. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a little bit about what you were saying, but can you kind of break that down into something even I can understand, you know?
So basically, we work backwards. We figure out what the pain points are. We run the math on your customer value, just your lead versus lag measure, and just understanding what your baseline costs are, your numbers. And once we quantify all that information and figure out what your real goals are and how to measure those, we just align our strategy to that. And then we plan it out and we assign a team, and then they work from there daily. And then they're tracking everything that they do. And then there's a monthly summary that is, is cleaned. It's clean data that you can understand. Is very is synergized, and you can make business decisions based on the analysis that we give you.
Does that work for big nonprofits too?
Yeah, we'll work for nonprofits. We had one nonprofit so far, and but we weren't working on. The only thing we were working on with them was more branding, awareness, and social media presence.
Right.
Everybody comes with different issues, and we like to let our clients cherry pick what they want based on what's important to them now and what they're able to do. And so, marketing is an umbrella term, so it encompasses a lot of different things, and we just let you pick where you want to start.
So what I'm hearing is you kind of provide analytics for companies and give them like an easily readable report of the data you collect so that they can make better business decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's one of the services we provide is data analytics. So primarily we offer consulting as like the first thing, because at that level, we can introduce you to, here's a marketing strategist that's going to help you structure all of this stuff. And then they can make recommendations to you and help you to understand why they feel this is a good recommendation. But regardless of whatever it is that you choose, if it's digital, we have a solution for it. Sometimes we can do it in-house. Sometimes we have to use a vendor. But consulting, the data analytics, but then we also do the other stuff, the SEO and social media and web development, all those things.
Yeah, cool. That makes good sense to me. It seems like, if I've got a clogged drain or whatever, or if I've got a warehouse full of product that's not moving, right? And I think, well, what I need is some marketing so that people know that it's there and they can buy it. Then that's the problem. And I'm sure that a lot of people have like, well, TV ads worked for me before, I'll use them again. And that might not be effective, or run a sale in the newspaper or whatever, or I'm going to post it on Facebook. So I can see where that consulting would really help. Like, let's identify the problem and figure out the best marketing solution for it.
That's what we try to be. We're unique in that way, because whenever you first bring up the term marketing to anybody, they're going to have a lot of presuppositions, and they're certainly not going to think that they can have their own marketer that's there to answer all of their questions, all their emails, troubleshoot everything, vet vendors, do research for them, and they can afford that as a small business owner. So that's our good news, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's our evangelism message right there, is that you can have a marketer too. That's how you lose people, when it comes to not hearing them out. And that's why I say with the interns, I like to let them be as innovative as they can be, as creative, and have a voice, especially because if they're representing my company, they're only going to represent me as well as they feel that I care. If they feel that I care, that I'm listening, I value them and their expertise, and I hear their concerns, then they'll want to work harder for me because it'll be their pleasure. And so I was training one of our business development specialists today, and that was something that I emphasized to him, that as the leader of that team, like, he has to be an extension of my sentiment. And my sentiment for my whole team is that I do want to hear your ideas. And we actually have a 1 day a month devoted to that. It's called Innovation Hall. So you know how there's a town hall where everybody complains? Well, Innovation Hall is, if you have any ideas or solutions to any of the company problems, bring them, bring your solutions. And so it's not a place where you bring problems, it's where you bring solutions. And that's where we're letting them shine, you know?
Nice. So I have a question. How much does the marketing cost?
So it's all going to vary. But for our interns, we have a special deal for them. So if you would like to have an intern that you can access throughout that whole month, ask all your questions, troubleshoot, strategize, structure, all of that stuff, is $99 a month. And that is for them to be your marketing advisor. If you're thinking about, should I spend money on this, or is this worth it, or would this work for me right now, or this guy is saying he wants to do my social media, but I don't know what types of questions to ask him. They will vet that person for you, ask them all the right questions, and make sure that they communicate with them. They can be the liaison between you and your vendors, because that's very important. I'll give you an example. I have a lawyer associate who spent $20,000 between 3 SEO companies, and he wasn't satisfied with any one of them. Now, the onus of that issue was on him also, as it was with the companies. What really happened was he wasn't communicating with them. They weren't communicating with him. And that's where the issues occurred. There was a lot of breakdown in communication, and there was nobody between them to ask them those questions to see if they were qualified to do what he was asking them to do. And if they knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't know exactly what he wanted. So I said, I wish you would have talked to me first before you went throwing money around like that, you know? And that's what that person is there for. And then they can also educate you and make recommendations for you. So, but when it comes to the other stuff, that just depends on whatever tools we're using. If we have to get subscriptions to create a website for you or whatever. Another thing we do that's very different from others is that with our websites, we can create a very basic website, a one-page website, all the way up to a website that has e-commerce, app, all of these, bells and whistles. It could go from very low budget up to whatever budget you can afford, because we have teammates who are at every level. We have the very advanced web developers, and then we have the ones who are building their portfolio. And so that gives you the opportunity to work with someone that's not charging this much, $5,000 for a website, And we also work with whatever platform you have. So for instance, we had a client once who didn't want us to create a brand new website for her because she just bought a hosting plan from a certain website provider. She just wanted us to use what she was using because she didn't know how to build it from that point. So we just assigned someone to build it for her on the platform she was already using, so she didn't have to incur any extra costs. Does that answer?
Yes, that does for me. Yeah, that answers it. I was trying to think up the mythical business, and as a customer coming in, say I was restarting the autograph business for sports memorabilia. This is something that used to be done very much in public or at companies that show up at the sports arenas, and so now everything's changing. The sports people, the stars are hardly playing, but now we can get more access to them, but we have less access to get to our public. So one thing's gotten easier, but the public's gotten harder. So what directions would you suggest something like that? And how, and if you're starting something, I just have to give you some mythical idea to see what, what would you market what would you market a system like that?
Marketing and I'm
trying to sell that. I have a product. I want to sell it, but I can't get the people anymore as easy because of COVID.
So what we would do is, first of all, you would have a discovery call to really hear you out and see what's most important and what you're actually trying to do. And then we would try to find the simplest way we can do that, because the simplest way is always the least expensive way, right? Especially if you're first starting out. But from there, we would want to find somebody on our team that has knowledgeability in that area and who would actually want to be on that project. That's one of the things that is also unique about us, is that if you had an anime business, we would find you someone who's also a fan of anime.
Yeah, you're going to find somebody that's going to match and be interested in what we're doing. I mean, I could be selling sports cards. We could be selling comic books. We could be selling bricks.
Yeah.
There's all these things.
But yeah, we definitely will want to figure out a way to reach your customers online and then create a group around that, or be able to prospect from those groups, or create ads that would basically target people who have those same interests. It could be location based, but we would drive them to a page, most likely, or wherever you want them to be driven to. But the most important thing is finding the people is not the hard part. The hard part is actually making sure that the place you're sending them to is the right place. And if it's together, for instance, if we were to do an ad for you on Facebook and to target these people and find them, okay, we could get them to click on the link. But if it goes to a bad website, or a website that has errors, or an outdated website, and basically the conversion rate is really low on that website, then what we're doing is now introducing them to your company at not its best state. Do you get what I mean? It's kind of like, it's kind of like having customers show up to your door and you're in your bathrobe. Like, I'm not ready, so we will focus on the place we're sending them to first. Is that a landing page? Is that a Facebook group you're trying to grow, or a podcast you're trying to send them to, or a course you're trying to send them to? Where are we sending them to? And let's make sure that it's super optimized that would make them want to do whatever the call to action is. Are you trying to sell tickets? What are you trying to do? Mm-hmm. That would be our main focus. The finding is the easy part. Hook and bait, that's the easy part. We have to have we have to know where these people are going and what funnel they're going to go down.